Okay, we're back. This is Module 5B, Part 2. It's really just a continuation, but I don't like to post long videos. Let's talk a little bit about Reformation. Okay, now if there were a room full of people, that should make everybody in the room go, because that means changing testator's really carefully chosen words after we've gone to all this trouble to protect testator's choices. Right? We've required this. We required witnesses to make sure nothing bad is going on. We require a signature. We require everybody's signatures in the same place. So now we're talking about actually changing the words once the testator is gone. The restatement suggests this is appropriate when there is clear and convincing evidence that shows there was a mistake and that shows what the intent actually was. That's a minority view. So how far do we go with this? Okay, not as far as Flannery versus McNamara. The will said everything to Catherine, my spouse. There was no contingent beneficiary. Why? Why? Always name a contingent beneficiary. Catherine predeceased her husband. So when William H. White died, he died effectively intestate. He had never updated his will after she died. Okay, well, who was he close to? He was close to Catherine's sisters. And he probably actually meant to leave them the house. There was enough evidence presented in the case that he talked about doing that. He thought he was doing that. Nevertheless, his will didn't actually say that. He also had some relatives. And again, these were first cousins once removed. In fact, we had to find them through a genealogical search. They were not around when he died. They probably didn't know he was dead until the lawyer contacted them. So, what a pickle. We know this isn't right. We know he probably didn't mean to leave his property to his distant relatives. So, maybe we can get the court to construe the will or to reform the will in such a way that the property will go to the sisters-in-law anyway. So is there any way to construe the will as leaving the estate to the Flannerys? That's to read it as meaning that. Could we introduce extrinsic evidence in order to get a court to construe the will this way? No, actually no. Not if the will is unambiguous, and this one really is. There's no language that we can convince a court might mean, and if Catherine dies first, then to Helen and Margaret. Maybe we can get the court to reform the will. Could we introduce extrinsic evidence to get the court to reform the will? Well, not in Massachusetts. They try to get the court to follow the restatement and to sort of overrule its earlier rules, but that is the minority view, and it was not the case, or not the view in Massachusetts, not the law in Massachusetts. Okay, so where does that leave us now with this idea of extrinsic evidence? Yes, we can bring in extrinsic evidence if there is a latent ambiguity, an ambiguity that's not evident from the face of the will, not evident until we bring in extrinsic evidence. Actually, one of my favorite cases, I didn't mention it in this video, was about a testator who left her property in trust for the care of Roxy Russell, which on its face looks just fine until you bring in some extrinsic evidence and learn that Roxy Russell is an Airedale Terrier. And that opens a whole different area of will writing. How do you deal with a pet? And we'll look at some of that a little bit later. Okay, but no extrinsic evidence for a patent ambiguity, right? One that is obviously ambiguous on the face of the will, nor can you bring in extrinsic evidence for a mistake, except maybe for minor details like identification and address, as we saw in Gibbs. And finally, generally speaking, we can't reform a will after the fact. There is the restatement, but that is a minority view. So words really, really matter. We have to be incredibly careful. Get it right. Right? Make sure you get it right. And sometimes I tell people, you know, as lawyers, really, words are what we have. That's our stock in trade. It's our craft. So it's on us to use them right. Okay, I think that's the end of this video. Oh, yeah. This is a gratuitous sloth. It has nothing to do with anything except that he probably sees the world differently from us because he's upside down. Thanks for watching.